Welcome to another episode of Progress, Potential, and Possibilities, discussions with fascinating people designing a better tomorrow for all of us. I'm your host, Ira Pastor.
Welcome, everybody, again to another episode of our show. Again, bringing you a really awesome guest today involved in creating a better tomorrow for all of us. Today, we have the honor of being joined by Christina Tobin, who is an activist, a leader in the area of election reform and voter rights, and is the founder and chair of the Free and Equal Elections Foundation, as well as the president and chief executive officer of Free and Equal Incorporated. Christina's nonprofit, the Free and Equal Elections Foundation, leads national, state, and local efforts ultimately to open up the electoral process in the U.S., hosting all-inclusive gubernatorial, senatorial, and presidential debates. They're also involved in organizing electoral reform symposiums. They produce the United We Stand tour, and they're also involved in supporting individuals running for office, and have recently created this really interesting blockchain election assistant to help promote transparency, help empower voters. Christina started her career as a nonpartisan ballot access coordinator under her ballot access and petitioning company, Free and Equal Incorporated, and has, over the years helped to gather, defend millions of signatures for Democratic, Republican, Constitution, Green Party, Libertarian Party, as well as various independents. In 2008, she served as Ralph Nader's national ballot access coordinator, helped to organize over 500,000 signatures, putting Ralph Nader on the DC ballot and 45 state presidential ballots. And throughout her life has been really instrumental in bringing together people of different backgrounds to ultimately spread this mission involving unity, peace, opportunity for informing and reforming the electoral process. We're honored to have her with us today. A lot of really interesting themes to get into today. Christina Tobin, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. That was a very warm introduction. Thank you.
Well, I really appreciate you being here and taking the time. I've watched you over the years, sort of going back to some of the original debates on C-SPAN. I'd like to go back a few years before that, though, and sort of start off back in the late 90s, where I think this is really when you were involved in your father's gubernatorial campaign in Illinois, James Tobin. Take us back a little bit to where sort of all this really began, because it's a really interesting story.
Yeah, I didn't grow up around politics. I met my biological father when I was 11, and Jim Tobin, and so was raised by an Italian family. And then when I met my father at 11, it was very cool. And he ran for governor in 1998. For 45 years, he ran National Taxpayers United of America, really up against the tax increases. In 76, he did a protest against the income tax. And it resulted, the people came out in the thousands, I believe. I see the photo with this megaphone. And it resulted in the income tax not being implemented that year. That goes to show the power of the people uniting, what it can do. So being around roots of no politics and then really into it around 11, 12, 13, really put me in a different place. I come from an artistic background, and when Dad ran for governor in 98, that was the first time I saw the flaws of the electoral system firsthand, when Dad was wrongfully knocked off the ballot. He collected, the third parties and independents needed to gather 25,000 valid signatures in Illinois, while the Democrats and Republicans only 5,000. Dad turned in over 60,000, was recommended on the ballot. The State Board of Elections still knocked him off the ballot. Why? Because he was a threat to the system. These are one of many flawed electoral rules and laws that are created by a unjust system, two-party system beholden to the powers that be, that keep accountable candidates like my father off the ballot. However, 4 years later, I stood up and collected over 5,000 signatures with sometimes 5 petition boards at a time, and managed and coordinated my dad's ballot access drive to get on the ballot as lieutenant governor. And that was the beginning of my career in ballot access, which a decade later evolved into the creation of the nonprofit Free and Equal Elections.
And I've watched you and the debates that you've put together going back to, I think, 2008. And this is as a side note, a couple of years ago, I think the 2020 debate, I started making my kids watch it, and I just say that if they were old enough to vote, and their vote, it was the only one that counted, Vermin Supreme would be president for life. But that being said, take us back to 2008, because I know a lot what we're going to be getting into a little later on in terms of technology and blockchain and AI. We'll be talking about that, but take us back what things were like back in 2008 when you really started ramping this up and did the first one of these on C-SPAN.
Yeah, after about a decade of getting Democrats, Republicans, third parties, independents on the ballot in Chicago and having a success record, which is very difficult to do because Chicago is as corrupt as it gets, the home of Obama, Emanuel, Michael Madigan. In 2008, because of working for Ralph Nader in 2004, I was brought on as a state coordinator, I think around January, February of 2008. A month later, I turned national in getting Ralph Nader on the ballot. So I got a couple promotions during the campaign, which was unheard of from Ralph, but the workload became so much heavier. And after succeeding in overcoming the Herculean potential challenges that the Democrats were going to have against Nader, as they did in 2004, they successfully knocked him off the ballot in over 32 states. Fortunately, in 2008, not only for myself, but the team that I built, we were able to offset those challenges, get Nader on the ballot in 45 states plus DC. And as soon as the ballot drive ended, I'm like, I'm going to have a breather, because I support getting more voices and choices on the ballot, but I would not work for Ralph Nader's campaign. I worked specifically for ballot access. Right. And then Ralph and the team called me up, literally a day turnaround. Can you come to the presidential debates rally? It was in, I think, Denver. I forget which. It might have been Minnesota. I have to look back. I lose track of time. And I was like, open the presidential debates. And that's where I learned. I saw Governor Jesse Ventura, Tom Morello play This Land Is Your Land. And Ralph taught me about essentially the corruption of the Commission on Presidential Debates and how it has created this grand illusion that there's only two parties within the system. And so he taught me the League of Women Voters had originally created the debates, and it was stolen by the Commission on Presidential Debates. And when I was in Chicago, I remember one time in the mid, 2000s, I lose track of time, 2000s, opening up the Constitution, Article 1, Section 3 with an election law attorney. And it said all elections shall be free and equal. And I said that years prior, if I ever start a nonprofit, it's going to be called Free and Equal Elections. It resonated with my heart. And that was the year 2008. Free and Equal Election hosted its first presidential debate. It was televised live on C-SPAN 2, and Ralph Nader, independent, was there, and Constitution, Chuck Baldwin. You would never think very left-leaning, very right-leaning. But what they had was beyond a debate. They had a conversation. Two good men that respected each other's vastly different viewpoints. It was really beautiful to see. I think it was really its first of its kind. And since then, my nonprofit Free and Equal Election has been hosting presidential debates for 15 years. So Chris Hedges was our moderator in 2008. And 4 years later, I was bold and confident enough to step in and co-moderate the presidential debate, Free and Equal's presidential debate with Larry King, and then also with Ed Asner in 2016. And then I moderated 3 presidential debates on my own in 2020 during a lockdown year, which it was actually the Transhumanist Party that helped back and fund the first debate we'd ever done before the primary. And we had 18 candidates confirmed from 10 different political party affiliations. And all the candidates were totally fine with the Transhumanist Party putting up the funds to really get that started. And some of the other candidates put in a couple $100 here and there. So very grateful. It's truly a people-powered movement, and the debates are really here to create that conversation that brings about solutions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I enjoyed. I've had the transhumanist candidates on the show, over the years, and I actually at one point was an advisor to the Transhumanist Party, growing up in this industry. But yeah, take us to 2020 for a bit, because I mean, in those primaries, there were a lot of candidates, across the spectrum, even the general election that year. I know, from what I've listened to about what you're planning for 2024, the process is going to be a little different in terms of sort of the ranked choice and picking ultimately 6 for. Walk us through what's going to be happening. We'll get into the technology and who's going to be monitoring all that. What's the plan for 2024 in terms of what this is going to look like?
Yeah, we've always used the cumulative format for the debate since 2008, which was created by the League of Women Voters.
Yeah.
And it's worked perfectly for us. And we will continue to use it. 2-minute opening question, 2-minute closing. With 6 candidates, we'll have about 5 questions. We plan for the people to poll the 2 questions, the moderators to decide the other 3 questions. So the format is cumulative format. And I'm sorry, I don't have my notepad, and your question specifically was, I'm very tired today.
That's fine. No, just the sort of the layout for the 2024 selection process.
Yeah, and the format, and getting to the criteria, is that we've always had criteria. Well, in 2008, we were on the ballot in enough states to be viably electable. And that was recommended by election law expert Richard Winger of Ballot Access News. And then I felt like that wasn't open enough, because ballot access itself is another flawed component of the system. And so in 2012, we opened it up furthermore. We're on the ballot in enough states to be viably electable, which I think is around 36, give or take, 32, 36, and or receive 2% in a national poll. Okay. And then we continued with that criteria. 2020 was the first time we did a debate before the primary, thanks to the Transhumanist Party. And the criteria for that, I can't remember offhand, but I opened it up way too much at 18 candidates confirmed, which was meant to be. So I broke it up into 2 debates. That was an honor, because one of the most difficult parts of putting on the debate was getting candidates to confirm. That was no longer an issue in 2020. So that was cool. And I always felt and knew that I wanted to have a blockchain app to allow the people to decide. That's a truly open criteria. We just weren't there yet because of building stability and momentum and a name and recognition, and now a team of developers coding and building that app. So the people will decide through blockchain voting for the kickoff of our 2024 presidential debate series, the top 6 candidates that they want to have at the live debate, because there's over 150, maybe even 200 candidates running for president now, according to Ballotpedia. And so they'll vote through the app. There'll be different phases of the app too, as we're going to have those details really dialed in the next week or so on our website. But there's a longer term vision with the app and why we're creating it beyond the voting. But it is so important for people to learn how and to feel and know that they can trust a voting system. And this is bigger than a debate. What we're building through the blockchain app is really the longer term vision. And I'd be happy to discuss that in greater detail. But that's our criteria for the debate. The kickoff, we are finalizing at XR Studios. The debate being, it looks like late February 29th is 10, right there, signing contract, depending on moderator, a third moderator that may join is scheduled. But it will be at XR Studios in Los Angeles, 360 immersive. I mean, it is a venue. I could not ask for a better venue. Rumble will be broadcasting it, and Jimmy Dore is going to be co-moderating it with me. So how cool is that? Hard-hitting questions, doesn't hold back, funny. it's going to be a lot of fun for serious times and serious issues, as we know what's going on around the world. We got to have some light to reform and unite our country.
Absolutely. Spend a little more time on the blockchain thing, because I've heard you talk about that, and I just voted here a couple weeks ago in Philly for our local elections, and I'm still walking into a clunky booth with a big slip of paper and feeding paper in. And say a little more about sort of the broad vision for the blockchain app, because I think there's a lot more going on there.
Yeah, what's going to go up on our website? I'm going to read it right off my phone here from
That's cool.
Colin Cantrell. He's our coder developer of Nexus.io. He'd be great to have on your show.
Cool.
His father, Jim Cantrell, co-founded VP of SpaceX with Elon Musk.
Yep.
So Colin is he is a mastermind genius in coding, developing the team and the interface being built by designers around Apple. And I'm excited for it. He wrote me, and we're going to put this up on our website. The fundamental reason is that blockchains are publicly audible ledgers. So they provide transparency into the vote count while also preventing votes from being lost, stolen, or forged. The first phase of our app, the blockchain app, Free and Equals blockchain app, is to demonstrate that is the technology for selecting candidates for this debate. But our long-term vision is building a framework and technological standard that could be used for future elections. The final outcome could combine counterfeit-resistant paper ballots that each tie with records on the blockchain, so people will be able to have their assurance that their vote was counted transparently. This builds confidence by allowing people to verify their vote was counted in a way there is 100% certainty it was not forged, manipulated, or changed at any step of the process. Our ultimate goal is to improve our electoral system and people's confidence in it, and our initial app is the first step towards that goal.
Outstanding. Really
first time I read that out loud. It's going to go on our site next week.
Well, you heard it here first. So.
Yes.
No, that was awesome, Christina.
Thank you. I know Colin's awesome. The team could not be more honored. I met him probably almost 10 years ago. We connected when he put on a huge event at Aspen Institute. He had Dr. Ron Paul there. I brought in Dennis Kucinich and Jesse Ventura and a lot of the leaders. And I just knew this is the guy that not only can build the app, but also the coin, going into the metaverse, NFTs. Like that's all going to happen throughout not only the presidential debate series in 2024, but the vision is for it to break out to the United We Stand tour in 25 and 26.
Excellent. Christina, in addition to the blockchain, one thing I've heard you talk about, and that you're also very passionate about technologically, is the whole area of artificial intelligence and the role that AI is going to play in this evolving ecosystem of electoral process. And obviously that could span anything from AI doing real-time fact checking as people are doing giving their spiel, potentially tailoring certain questions. I don't know if there's ever a futuristic scenario where you have an actual AI presidential candidate, seeing how they do. Talk a little bit about artificial intelligence, sort of in the free and equal strategy.
I mean, does it make sense to have the analogy of, well, guns are here. They're not going anywhere. AI is here. It's not going anywhere. The key is to have good intent behind AI, right? Yeah. So when we have the right people in office, when I plug the United We Stand tour in 25, 26, that blockchain app is going to be in the future listing sooner rather than later every single candidate running for office. D's, R's, third parties, independent candidates. There are more independent voters than there are D's and R's combined. According to the Gallup polls, we can see what's happening with Robert F. Kennedy as an independent for president. I see many more running. And I see a lot of independent candidates, whether they're using a party line or not, replacing most, if not every member of Congress in 2026. And when that happens, we're going to see transparency, everything from electoral reform to the prison system cleaning up, to should we decriminalize and or rid of the cartels, just put out a business decriminalize drugs like Portugal, like a voting system, blockchain implemented. I hope we inspire that voting system and educate them to implement the system where the power shifts from the federal to state, even local level, where people self-govern themselves. So the bigger vision of United We Stand is to bring that transparency, and that's also going to ripple into AI. So artificial intelligence, I met somebody that created, the person who created Google Translate, right? The actual person that created Google Translate. He did a PowerPoint for 20, 30 minutes, and he showed how easy it is to change a few words in Google Translate to make AI positive, solution-based, love, compassion versus fear-mongering. It comes down to the intent of the person, truly. So AI is there. I see it as with the good intention. As we put things on the ledger beyond the candidates, you can believe we're going to put businesses, AI world, the space world, whatever it may be, because space warfare is another thing down the road. More chaos and drama we can avoid. And we can and we will when we have transparency that is first most in our elections, and everything will fall into place. So I see AI when the intent and money is used in a pure way, and the app's going to like tell people, don't support this AI person because their intention's not good. Support all these really little ones to make them big, good ones, shift the market, like people have done in the food industry. It's shifting, organic. We can see a lot of other countries is coming our way. I see that happening in AI as well. So I see it doing great things for the world amongst all the different things. And it comes down to having great leaders first in our elections.
You mentioned Jimmy Dore, and I saw, I was a big fan of his. I saw you on Russell Brand's show last week, talking about debate. You also mentioned that you're looking to put together a few other moderators. Could you say a couple? I know you shouted out to Joe Rogan at one point, but what makes a good moderator in the context of what you're doing? Because clearly, because you're diversifying substantially, this isn't just DNR now. What makes for the most appropriate moderator for something like this, where you have everything from the traditional parties to the transhumanists to the green and so forth and so on?
I think that people recommended Elon Musk, but we've seen him kind of moderate some things on Twitter. I'm not sure if that's his role, lovingly, Elon. Your role is to broadcast, I hope, Twitter, like a presidential debate, like Rumble is broadcasting our debate, and Colin Cantrell and others are going to reach out to Elon. I would love for our debate to be broadcast on Twitter. I think there's a down-to-earth component. Larry King and Ed Asner, great listeners. Chris Hedges, too, Pulitzer Prize winning journalist. They know how to ask questions. They know how to listen. And even with Jimmy Dore, I've spoken with them. I said, the debate is a presidential debate. It's not the Jimmy Dore show. It's different, so there's a different, these moderators are going to know there's just a certain way to be, and kindness, engage, asking questions, listening, and really representing what the people want to hear too. And amicability amongst all the candidates and moderators, not any sort of a fight, but more of an understanding. And what I like about Jimmy is, like, while there might be some candidates a little bit uncomfortable, I mean, he's interviewed Cornel West, Jill Stein, Kennedy, but Jimmy's asked the questions that people want to have asked. And the candidates, if they're uncomfortable, these candidates across the board are far more accountable, I think, than the D's and R's who are in office. But could they be even better candidates because of hard-hitting journalists like Jimmy Dore? Absolutely. These candidates can become stronger on the war issue, or shift or change, or admit I made an error and I've learned more, and on various issues. They need to be able to be strong enough to sit across from a moderator like him. And Joe Rogan too has a little more chilled, laid back, but he doesn't hold back in his questions, but he's like, hey, kind of approach, versus Jimmy, hey. So I like Patrick Bet-David a lot. I think he's a really extraordinary journalist that just has the ability to interview a lot of people across the spectrum. Would I bring someone in to like a Woody Harrelson? We've been talking Danny Glover to Jennifer Lawrence. Like, I would do that as long as I can sit between the moderators and make sure the format's done and everybody's treated in a kind, loving way during very seemingly dark times, but these times are only dark because the system wants it to be. And they're intentionally inflicting this chaos. So we disconnect and don't trust each other. And that's just all the old paradigm that's going to be expiring. I mean, Congress is mostly 70, 80-year-olds. There's just a matter of time, like the new young voters coming out, as we can see. So that's what I see for the future.
And we'll get through 2024. We'll have a new or not new president at that point. 2025 comes, United We Stand tour, 2025-26, a very important period. Say a few words, because I neglected to mention, these tours, musicians, artists, all sorts of other cultural thought leaders are going to be present during this unique time. Say a few more words about United We Stand 25-26.
Yeah, and as far as a moderator, you kind of, I'm thinking out loud, but I feel like that polling that we're going to have for questions, like they're going to be polling, who do you want to have moderate? Like these, I want the people to decide. So, so just a final thought on that. There's so many more moderators we've considered as well, in the Tucker Carlson and so on, and Russell Brand, but he's promoted our debate, so that's awesome. United We Stand is bringing together conscious artists and thought leaders, organizations, the coalition, the music industry, Hollywood, whatever it may be, good people coming together, and music being the healer, to ignite and spark that conversation, inspire people to run for office. I started this United We Stand, I think 2014. Yes. So we've been holding it annually now for 8 years. So we plan to have a musician kick off the presidential debate prior to the debate, maybe singing "This Land Is Your Land" or the national anthem, something like that before the debate, and build it out furthermore throughout the series and so on. And so what I foresee within that tour, whether it's a bus and or train component implemented into it, going into festivals or on its own, creating its own, maybe on private land, indigenous, seems to be aligned. But we will be also including candidates running for office on the tour. So whether they're candidates and or forums, debates that will be plugged into the blockchain app, where state leaders for Free and Equal will help to moderate with the cumulative format, and so on. So essentially, that United We Stand event will result in tour and these conscious thought leaders and celebrities are human beings that want to use their platforms to actually make change in the world, like Jimmy Dore is doing, and others. But Jimmy's like doing it, coming in to moderate. So that blockchain app will plug all of those candidates into the app. And I see a lot of these individuals supporting, endorsing if they want to, money or donate time. And also, we're going to teach people, like, click here to run for office, click here to help this candidate, click here to vote, register to vote. And so we'll have all the tools from our symposium you mentioned, experts that we've had from controllers to mayors, the League of Women Voters at our symposiums, discuss and educate people about the flaws of the electoral system, from gerrymandering to restrictive ballot access to barriers to closed presidential debates to why do we have singular vote? Because it keeps the Democrats, Republicans, it helps them get reelected over and over again through fear. So, so that's the bigger vision, and there's so much more.
Awesome. We'll be putting the freeandequal.org link in the bio of the show, and everybody can check out what we've been talking about in terms of the debates, the blockchain. There's Free and Equal TV. There's the ability to donate in your store. Christina, while we have you, anything else that I didn't touch on, anything that I missed, kindly take the floor.
Yeah, the big thing is, please go to freeandequal.org and register today to sign up for the blockchain app, because the voting will begin in January. We're very close to announcing the beginning and end date of the voting. There's a lot of groups and organizations that have already offered to promote this voting app. So go to freeandequal.org and register for the voting app today. And we're also raising money. We are not beholden to big corporate strings attached money. We've already raised close to 15,000. Very grateful for Gennady and the Transhumanist Party and their support on there. So seemingly so noticed and appreciated, of course, for our debates in the past too. And but you can go there. We've raised 15,000, almost of our $30,000 goal to go towards the production and venue, which will be even more than that. So we're ramping up the fundraising furthermore this coming week. And I think that's it. You can also submit a question when you register for the app. There's a section there to submit a question which we can consider. I think we're going to add up like different ideas and which ones add up to the most and implement that into a poll. So thank you so much for your support and for having me today. Really, and for what you do. I think all the media that has me and is drawn to freeandequal.org, that says a lot to me, in the transparency and we all coming together. When we unite, there's going to be nothing that's going to get in our way. It really.
You're doing awesome work. I've enjoyed following you over the years, Christina, and just really wishing you the best with all this as we get into 2024. Again, for everybody that is going to be listening to this particular episode of the show across the various podcast networks or watching on our YouTube channel, again, you've been listening to Christina Tobin, founder and chair of Free and Equal Elections Foundation, president and CEO, Free and Equal Incorporated, doing really amazing things on election reform, on voter rights movements. Christina, I want to again thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to come talk to us. Obviously, thank you for what you do. And as we like to say on our show here, thanks for helping to create a better tomorrow for so many people out there via what you're doing. Really a great story.
Thank you so much. It was so kind of you. It's moments like this that keep me going. I appreciate it.
Great having you.